today I'm going to talk you through about 35 brand new releases for July. There are obviously many books coming out in July. This is just a very small sample. These are the ones that I am either most anticipating or the ones that I have heard a little bit about and I could be persuaded to pick them up. There are also a few here that I only discovered as part of my research for this video, so I don't know loads about some of them, but they do sound very intriguing to me, so I wanted to flag them to you. Let me know what your most anticipated new book releases are in the comments down below, and then we can get started. So the first one I've put on this list is coming out on the 1st of July, and that's After We Burned. I have read from this author before. She has written a couple of very emotional contemporary books, and this one also sounds as though it's going to be very gripping and quite tragic. So this is a YA thriller suspense. It follows a group of teenagers who experienced a fire in their high school, and I believe this fire killed one of their fellow students. So they are dealing with the aftermath of that and also the mystery of why that student was in the building when the fire was set. I don't personally read much YA contemporary nowadays, but when I do reach for YA, I tend to reach for contemporary or thrillers. So this could be a good one for me to read. Also on the 1st of July, we have Coffee Shop in an Alternate Universe. This is cozy queer fantasy. It's about a woman called Brenda who is working towards a deadline when her internet goes out at home. And so she goes to this coffee shop to use their internet, and she stumbles into Kat. The two of them start to bond. I think Kat is really impressed by Brenda and how she wants to save the world, essentially. And then they discover that the two of them are from different universes. This one sounds really fun to me. I am definitely going to pick this one up. A Forbidden Alchemy. This one I am on the fence about because I read this author's other book, Ledge, and I'll talk about that more in my wrap up for June, but it was really bad. So I'm not entirely convinced that I want to pick this one up, but at the same time, Ledge was written quite a few years ago, so I'm wondering if maybe the author has really improved her craft. I can't think of a nicer way of putting it. But this is said to be a slow burn romantasy about a fated pair who uncover a world-changing secret and then they're thrust into a class war. It says here that Nina and Patrick are 12 years old when they are whisked away from the shadows of their disenfranchised mining towns to discover their magical potential. So they end up going to this magical boarding school, I believe, and then it follows them years later as there's some sort of revolution happening. I don't know about this one. If you guys are going to read it, come back and tell me what you think, because I really can't decide if it's for me. Blood in the Water. This is by Tiffany D. Jackson, who is an author that I really enjoy reading about. I've read, I think, almost all of her books now, and there have only been a couple that I haven't really loved. This one is actually a middle grade debut. It's middle grade horror, which I have noticed is a genre that's really picking up lately, which is really exciting. I remember when I was younger, I used to read all of the point horror books, but that was kind of, or those were the only middle grade YA horror books that I could get my hands on. So I love that more authors are leaning into the genre now and exploring it for younger readers. So it says here that it's Jaws for a whole new generation. Main character Kaylani is from Brooklyn, and she goes on a family holiday with some family friends as well to Martha's Vineyard. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna have to Google it because I've heard it brought up quite a few times. Is it an area or is it like a resort kind of thing? I don't know. So she gets to this place, town, whatever it is, and she meets the locals and they end up showing her around. It's a really nice area, but then there is a murder and there's a huge question up in the air about whether this was a serial killer, an actual murder, maybe a drowning, or was there a shark attack? And so the main character is trying to solve that mystery, and I just love the sound of this one. I really do want to get my hands on it. I don't really read much middle grade at all, so I'm quite picky about what I pick up in that age range, but this does sound like something that I would enjoy. This is Where We Die. This is another thriller book. This one is YA. The tagline says, 8 friends went on a trip, only 6 came back. Now a killer has one night to make sure the survivors pay for what they did so that 0 make it out alive. So I believe the 8 of them went on a skiing holiday a couple of years before, and something obviously went tragically wrong because 2 people either died or went missing, and because one of the main characters had rich parents, they were able to cover the entire thing up. I imagine they were probably involved. Who knows? And it says here that now, in the present day, an exclusive private island with a mansion for rent goes viral on social media, and so these rich people decide to rent it for the weekends. The group of 6 friends arrive first by helicopter, and they're expecting all of their classmates to meet them there later, but then nobody arrives, and then there's lack of cell service, and it just sounds really fun, so I'm definitely going to pick this one up. Moving on to the 8th of July, we have Night Watcher. This one is another horror book, or horror thriller maybe. This follows a woman called Nola, who is a late night radio host. I think her radio show is something about like hauntings or like creepy sightings and ghosty stuff. One evening she gets a caller call into the radio, and their story triggers something in Nola's memory because Nola escaped from a serial killer a few years previously, and she reckons that the serial killer is coming back to finish what he started. I really enjoy the sound of this one. I love a good thriller book with a really intense backstory, and it sounds like this one is that. The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. I don't know about this one. This is another one that I'm kind of on the fence about because, first of all, I don't like the title. I don't like these really long titles. I know that sounds really silly or perhaps really picky of me, but they don't appeal to me at all. I genuinely would prefer a something of something and something rather than an entire sentence in the title. Anyway, this is the first book in a romantasy duology. I believe it's meant to be slow burn as well. It says here that it's about a healer and an assassin. It's being compared to The Love Hypothesis and Emily Wilde. It says here that the main character Osric is a member of an order of assassins. They are in dire need of healing, and then there's only one healer who can help them, and that's going to be the love interest. So these two are forced to collaborate. I think this covers the topic of women in STEM, but in a fantasy setting, which does sound really fun. I think one of the book boxes, or a couple of the book boxes that I know of, are doing this book in July. I'm not planning on buying it, but I could be persuaded. Like, again, I'm on the fence about this one. Let me know if it's any good if you've read it. The Frozen People. This is the first book in, I think, a crime series. I'm just reading the synopsis now, and it's actually tagged with time travel. It talks about time travel and solving crimes and stuff, so this actually sounds like something I would really enjoy. The tagline says, cold cases are a lot easier to solve when you can travel back in time to find new evidence, unless that is you get stuck in the 19th century. This sounds like something I would love, so I'm definitely going to pick this one up. I'm actually going to Google it right now to see if it's on NetGalley because I want to get my hands on it. I'm recording this a little bit earlier, or a few weeks before you're seeing this video, so there would be time, in theory, for me to read it. It's already out here in the UK. Oh, in that case, I can just buy it. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna leave that tab open for later. Shouldn't get distracted. So I'm going to buy this one. It sounds really good. Soulgazer. This is another romantasy book, I think. I think. It's clearly a romantasy going by the cover. It's about a pirate. So it says here that the main character Saoirse's parents offer her hand to the cold and ruthless Stone King. The main character really doesn't want to do this because she has heard awful stories about him. And then I think she is kind of swept away by a pirate somehow. And it says that the two of them are trying to find a lost mythical isle with the power to save the entire world. I don't know how that kind of factors into it, but this one does sound quite fun. Another romantasy that everyone is talking about is Rose in Chains. I thought this one was already out, but I guess not. It says here that the war is over, the dark forces have won, and the hero who was supposed to save them is dead. The main character has been captured, and her people have been enslaved or imprisoned, and her brother, who was the heir, has been killed. So she's not having a good time. And it says here that the main character, Bryony, is auctioned off to the highest bidders, apparently worth a ton of money because she is the ex-heir's sister, and she is sold to someone called Tovin, who has like a high rank and stuff. So I've heard this actually, or I've heard of this in relation to Firebird, which is a book that came out a couple of months ago, and there's a whole controversy surrounding it. I haven't read it yet, but I want to because it deals with similar themes, and I have heard this one deals with it better, but I'm not really, because I haven't read either book, I don't really know what to say about that. I believe, if I remember correctly, this one is Hermione fan fiction, so that's just something to be aware of as you go into it. I don't really mind reading previously written fanfic. I do think the publishers are being a bit lazy by picking up these books, but you know, whatever, I'm happy for the authors. This might be one that I pick up eventually to kind of get in on the hype, probably. That always happens to me. Moving on to the 15th of July, first of all we have The Goldens. This one is a YA mystery thriller. It says here that Chloe has always dreamed of becoming a best-selling writer, and she meets an influencer called Clara. They bond, and so Chloe moves into Clara's mansion. I don't know how they're doing this if they're teenagers, maybe it's not YA, I don't know. Anyway, it says here that Clara becomes more and more famous, her fame skyrockets, and she starts behaving really strangely, and eventually more and more people move in with Clara into her mansion, and it becomes a kind of cult sort of situation. So that sounds interesting. I don't know if I would pick this one up because I don't typically read a lot of cult stuff unless I'm already familiar with the author, because it's just a topic that makes me uncomfortable. But I could be convinced. If this turns out to be good, I will pick it up. One Yellow Eye. This one is a sci-fi horror. It does deal with an epidemic, but it's a zombie epidemic. It's about a woman who is, I think, looking for the cure, And then she is also hiding her undead husband, who has obviously turned into a zombie, and she can't let anyone know that that's what's happened. It says here that the government in this world has rounded up and disposed of all of the infected, but the main character Kester is having to keep her unalive husband a secret while she reviews biopsy results and stuff and does testing to try and find the cure for him. I think this is a really interesting take on the whole zombie apocalypse thing, because it's kind of, well, it's following the point of view a scientist who is trying to find the cure, and it's not just some random person who has managed to survive and is trying to navigate the world. This person is actively trying to do something to cure someone that she loves. So I find that very, very interesting, and I would like to pick this one up. A Resistance of Witches. As you may know, I like to read witchy books, and I've put this one on here. It's a debut book. It says here that it's set against the backdrop of World War II, where a witch journeys to find a book of unspeakable power before it lands in Nazi hands. It says that the main character was accepted into the Royal Academy of Witches a few years before, and then war broke out. Europe is kind of in uproar, and then a Nazi witch infiltrates the academy and leaves the entire coven shaken, and so the main character has to do something about it and go and get this book. I think this one sounds really interesting. I've not read anything like this before, so I would definitely like to pick this one up. This is another one that I'm going to look up on NetGalley. Her Many Faces. This is a thriller book. It says here that it's the suspenseful story of a woman on trial for murder as told through the eyes of the most important men in her own life. So it's kind of a reverse of Notes on an Execution, I think it's called, which is a book that I really, really enjoyed, but I don't know how I feel about reading from, or about a woman from the points of view of like 4 or 5 different men. It says here that the 5 men begin to question how they really knew this main character, but what is her true face? The truth about who Catherine is and what exactly she has done lies somewhere between these 5 male perspectives. I think if handled well, this could be a really good book. It's an interesting concept. I'm just not entirely sure. However, I have just looked at a few 5-star reviews and it does sound really, really good. So again, I'm gonna look this one up and see if I can get it on NetGalley. Everyone is Lying to You. This is a murder mystery book about 2 friends called Lizzie and Bex. They were best friends in college, but after graduation, Bex kind of disappeared and Lizzie wasn't really sure what happened to her friend. 15 years later, Bex has now become an influencer called Rebecca, who is a trad wife, and Lizzie is a magazine writer who has been struggling with her career, but she finds Bex on Instagram and sees her reels and stuff. And then one night out of the blue, Bex calls up Lizzie and offers to give her an exclusive interview. I'm going to stop reading the synopsis there because I don't really want to know anymore, but I'm very intrigued by this one because I really do enjoy reading about either celebrities or influencers. I like getting behind the scenes. I like seeing all of the rich people drama. So this does sound like something that I would enjoy. Stays Between Us. This is another thriller murder mystery book. This one is, I believe, Australian. It says here that 10 years ago, 6 college students meet in an Australian summer study abroad. I imagine that's meant to be like a program or something. They're ready to enjoy a break from their studies and travel the country. Their program is meant to introduce them to the beauty of Australia and immerse them in an unforgettable cultural experience. In reality, there are outdoor excursions, adrenaline rushes, alcohol, lust, friendship turned wrong. Then someone disappears, and again, I'm going to stop reading the synopsis there. This one sounds really intriguing to me. I would love to read it. Girl in the Creek. This is an atmospheric horror thriller book. The cover, absolutely hate it. Absolutely horrifying. It says here that it's a cli-fi cosmic horror about a Pacific Northwest forest that seems to be devouring all who enter. I'm not going to read the rest of the synopsis. This sounds creepy and kind of like fungal mushroom horror, which I hate, but I will read because I like being grossed out. Of Flame and Fury. This one is Fourth Wing meets Iron Widow, apparently. It's a YA romantasy. It says here that the main character, Kel, has a team of underdogs called the Crimson Howlers, who are desperate to win the annual races and the fortune that comes with it. But the Howlers need a new rider, and so Cal is forced to join forces with Coop, who is an arrogant rival that she can't get out of her head. Tensions rise, the main character's home gets burnt down, and someone is interested in her phoenix, so the main character has a phoenix companion. This sounds fun. I, again, don't think I'll pick it up until someone tells me that I should, or that it's really, really good. I'm gonna wait for some more reviews because not many people have reviewed it yet. The Bewitching, this one is by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, who, as we know, is a very popular horror writer. I haven't loved her books, the ones that I've read so far, but this one is multi-generational and it follows 3 women in 3 different eras who encounter danger and witchcraft, so it's a witchy book, and that's why I put this one on this list. If I'm going to enjoy any Sylvia Moreno Garcia book, it's going to be this one. It's going to be her witch book, so I'm really hyped to read this. I love that it's following the same family who descend from witches perhaps, or they all have secret magical powers, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to reading this. The Enchanted Greenhouse. This is by Sarah Beth Durst, who wrote The Spell Shop and many other books. I soft DNF'd The Spell Shop because I just wasn't in the mood for a cozy fantasy. This is another cozy one, but I believe it's unrelated to The Spell Shop. I think it's just its own standalone. It says here that the main character, Turlu, broke the law because she was lonely. She cast a spell and created a magically sentient spider plant. Wait, no. There's a sentient spider plant in The Spell Shop, so this must be related in some way. I don't think it follows the same main character, but it does sound very familiar. Other people are saying it's a sequel, so I am so confused. Was the main character in The Spell Shop called Turlu? Let me look this up. No, the main character was called Keeler. I don't know how they're related, but it's a cozy fantasy. It's coming out in July. In the Veins of the Drowning. This one is another romantasy book. It says here that the main character Imogen is in hiding from a cruel kingdom that believes sirens are monstrous, blood-hungry creatures. She is hiding from a king and his captain who viciously hunt her kind. To do this, she's having to keep herself from the sea, so she's depriving herself of what she needs. It says here that a neighbouring king comes to visit and Imogen can no longer hide. He knows precisely what she is and he believes that she can save both their kingdoms from an even greater monster. So I guess they have to team up and take down the crown. It does sound very interesting. Again, I'm not sure I'm going to pick this one up right away, but it's one that I will be keeping an eye on and I might pick it up sometime soon before the sequel comes out so I can recap it. Witch's Guide to Magical Inkeeping. This is by the author of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which I absolutely loved. I've actually started reading this one. It's about a woman called Sarah who used to be the most powerful witch in Britain, but she kind of lost her powers by performing a really complicated spell to bring her, I think her nanny or her aunt or something back to life. So she resurrected someone and lost her powers and now she feels very trapped. I haven't gotten very far into this one, but I am very much enjoying it. It's got the same cozy vibes as the first book. I'm gonna have to start it again because I've taken such a long break from reading it, but I can tell you I was very much enjoying it and I loved The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It was so lovely and I'm convinced I'm going to love this one as well. Then we have a non-fiction called A Flower Travelled in My Blood, the incredible true story of the grandmothers who fought to find a stolen generation of children. So I believe this one is set in Argentina and obviously I've just said it's a non-fiction true story. It says here that in the early hours of March 24th, 1976, the streets of Buenos Aires rumbled with tanks as soldiers seized the presidential palace, overthrowing Argentina's leader. To many, it seemed like just another coup, but there was something darker about this new regime. Quietly supported by the US and much of Argentina itself, a ruthless campaign was launched called the National Reorganization Process. And then one of the military's most diabolical acts was the disappearance of hundreds of pregnant women. So this sounds absolutely devastating, and it's not a period or a point in history that I know anything about, so that's why I want to read this book. On the 17th of July we have Human Rights, which is the third Her Majesty's Royal Coven book. We've been waiting ages for this one. I haven't as long as others, but I am very excited to get to this. I'm excited to wrap up a series as well. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be a huge achievement for me. Then we're on to the 22nd of July. First of all, we have Ink Ribbon Red. This is Knives Out meets Saltburn. Still not seen Saltburn, but I've heard things about it. It says here that the main character invites 5 of his oldest friends to his family home in the Wiltshire countryside. They play a game which seems to be like a murder mystery kind of thing. Everyone chooses 2 players at random and imagines a scenario where one kills the other and then writes it down as a short story. And then this brings out a load of secrets and arguments and discussion and stuff. I think this one does sound very intriguing to me. It hasn't got the best ratings, so again, this is one that I'm going to wait to read. Blood Slaves. This one is the first in a series, it looks like. It's a vampire origin story set during or around the Civil War. It says here that it's set in Carolina in 1710. The main character, Willie, is currently enslaved and she is offered a dark hope by someone who offers an irresistible and blood-chilling path to liberation. And then it mentions that this person is the lone survivor of an African vampire tribe rendered nearly to extinction by plague, and he's been roaming the world for centuries. So this sounds really interesting. It's like historical fiction but with vampires, and I do love the sound of that, and I'm really excited by the concept of it being a series as well. So I've put this one on the list. Arcano Academy by Elise Kova. I've not read anything by this author, but I've heard amazing things. This one is about a woman who wields tarot cards, and then she gets involved with the headmaster of a magical academy kind of thing, which is a setting that I really enjoy. So I'm looking forward to reading this one at some point. I've heard really good things about this author's writing, so I'm hyped for this. One that I am incredibly hyped for is Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. This is her first adult book, so her adult thriller debut, and I cannot wait. I'm not even going to read the synopsis. I don't want to know what it's about. I'm just going to go into it immediately on the 22nd of July and binge read it. because I'm so excited. Saltbones. This one is another horror retelling, I think. It says here that it's, yeah, a retelling of Persephone and Demeter in the Mexicali borderlands. It says here that it combines elements of Latina and indigenous culture, family drama, mystery horror and magical realism. It lays bare the realities of environmental catastrophe, family secrets and the unrelenting bond between mothers and daughters. Love the sound of this one, so I'm definitely going to pick this one up. And finally, we're on to the 29th of July. That's the last release day of July, obviously. The first book is The Lies They Told. This one is another historical fiction book. It's set in the 1930s in Virginia. It says here that it's about a young immigrant mother who is fighting for her dignity and those she loves against America's rising eugenics movement. This, again, is something that I don't know loads about, which is why I really enjoy reading historical fiction books, or non-fiction books even. I mean, obviously non-fiction books tell me stuff, but historical fiction books teach me a lot as well. Birth of a Dynasty. Or Dynasty? How do you pronounce that? So this says that it's combining the political intrigue of She Who Became the Sun, which I've not read yet, and the world building of Children of Blood and Bone. It's the first of a thrilling epic fantasy trilogy centered around three families who fight for power in a land where magic is feared, giants are real, and prophecy holds sway. Sounds very interesting to me. Under the Stars, this is by Beatrice Williams, who is a very popular author. This is another generational fiction story, which I really, really enjoy, as you know. Tell you every single video. It says here that a daughter and her famous mother return to Winthrop Island to confront their complicated past, and they discover a secret trove of paintings that connect them to a mysterious woman who vanished on a luxury steamship 2 centuries earlier. So I think it goes back and forth, and it's kind of like about family history and secrets and generations and stuff. Really excited for this one. Another one that I'm really excited for is We Won't All Survive by Kate Alice Marshall. She is an auto-buy author for me. Absolutely love her stuff. So this tagline is really interesting to me. So it says here that it's from the best-selling author of I Am Still Alive, which was her YA debut like years ago. So it's really interesting that they're comping it to that title when she's released so many more books since then. But I think it's because this is kind of like a survival story, and so that's quite similar to I'm Still Alive. It also says that it's part murder mystery and all thriller. It says here that 2 years ago, Mercy was hailed as a hero for saving lives during a mall shooting. She still carries souvenirs from the incident, a fragment of a bullet lodged in her back, a mountain of medical debt, and guilt for ignoring her sister's warnings that the sweet boy next door was anything but. I'm not going to read the rest of the synopsis, but I'm going to be reading this book immediately, as soon as I can. And then finally, the last book of this video is The Memory Hunters. It says here that it's Inception meets Indiana Jones. It's another fungal mushroom science kind of book, which I love. It's science fiction, possibly a bit fantasy, and it says that it follows a headstrong academic and her equally stubborn bodyguard as they unearth an ancient secret that rocks the foundations of their society and challenges their unspoken love for one another. I just think it sounds really good, so I'll be picking up. So those are all the books I'm excited for in July. There are so many. All of these, bar maybe 2, I am genuinely hyped and really, really excited to read. So let me know in the comments below if any of these tickle your fancy, tell me what you're thinking, and thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.